Just a brief introduction, and I'll try to make it as fun and non-boring as possible. मेरा नाम आमिर है. मैं तकरीबन पिछले 12 साल से एक इंस्टाग्राम पेज चलाता हूँ जिसका नाम है आमिर. Opposite or in contrast to what all of you are, which are proper like people who are studying fashion and textiles, I don't come from this world. I am a business graduate and I've been working in advertising for past 12 years. That's my day job. This has been a passion project. कुछ दिन पहले सायरा ने मुझे Instagram पे मैसेज किया था कि would you be interested to come and talk to our students, और मैं आप लोगों के सामने हूँ. If you guys have any question, please feel free. Imagine करें कि आपकी सारी टीचर्स यहाँ नहीं हैं. You guys can raise a hand. You can say Aamir. You can say excuse me or whatever. You're free to interrupt. I don't mind that. And I would want कि आप लोग सारे थोड़े interactive रहें. अगर आपको किसी चीज़ के बारे में कोई confusion है, if you guys feel I'm talking bullshit, call me out. I don't mind it. Be as frank as possible. I don't want it to be a very academic and scary. I want it to be very two-way. I want it to be very interactive. Just take everything with a bit of humor. Take it very lightly. If you feel it's getting boring, just do this time out. I'll move it. We'll do a fun activity. I have taught economics before, but I've never taught or explained textiles to anybody. I've been fortunate to advise some students on their thesis in PIFD and IBS, but I've done it as literally like an advisor. मेरा कोई इस चीज़ में academic background नहीं है. I'm doing it literally like an amateur person who just has interest in this. I really appreciate आप लोगों ने आज time निकाला और आप सब यहाँ बैठे हैं, and I hope that you move from this room with few things in your head and be like कि ऐसा क्यों होता है क्या है. So the thing I wanted to talk about was cultural appropriation. So आप लोगों ने काफ़ी links पे, काफ़ी इंटरनेट पे आजकल बहुत रील्स और टिकटॉक्स भी बन रहे हैं about things people say कि ओ ये इंडिया से लिया गया है या पाकिस्तान से लिया गया है. When I started in 2011, उस वक्त कोई भी bloggers as such exist नहीं करते थे. In 2011, there are literally 6 fashion bloggers in whole of Pakistan. So I was very privileged and lucky. Like it was literally like Andho mein Kana Raja. I did not know what I was doing. I was just very, very privileged. So I wanted to start with Ajrak. This is by a designer called Craig Green. I start with Ajrak always because A, I'm Sindhi. I'm very nationalistic about and I own it and I'm very proud of it. I recently saw some local designer write that Ajrak is from the word ithe rakh or aaj te rakh or something like that, and I wanted to question her, where did you get this like history from? Again, I have never studied it, but then I started researching. So the most common thing for you guys would be to Google things. You might write a word and be like, what is meaning or what is question mark? And the most common and the most authoritative resource for me was Noorjahan Bilgrami, the one who owns and runs Koil. She's done a lot of work on revivalist practices and textiles. So I again was privileged to get in touch with her and be like, okay, I just found out you had a book. It's on Amazon, but it's not in Pakistan. What's the deal? She said, yeah, I did it in like a decade back. And that kind of gave me this drive. This was very recent, like 2017-18. There's so much misinformation on the internet that for a normal layman person, if you just start Googling and start believing whatever you read, you might think you're on the right track. But you never are. Ajrak is from the Arabic word azrak, which is the word for blue. And this was very earlier, like when I was probably 3rd year into my blog, around 14 or 2015. And Forever 21 is a fast fashion brand. They had like a small dress. And this was very common to spot. But then I also found Urban Outfitters. They did a swimsuit. And they named it Moroccan print, and Forever 21 called it Baroque print. I think अगर आपने art history पढ़ी है, मैंने उस वक्त नहीं पढ़ी थी. Frankly, I again never studied art, never studied. So I started googling what's Baroque, what's Moroccan, how can they be connected to Ajrak? And I was fascinated that a lot of people in the West, whenever they see anything Eastern, they call it Oriental. It's a very common thing, or again, that's a very problematic word, that's a whole other discussion. But Moroccan kaise, how did our Ajrak from South Asia, Western India, South, like Pakistan, end up in Morocco and Baroque? Like, how did Baroque come to denote this? And then it started that I started digging deep into things, कि कैसे naming conventions change होते हैं and how brands name their collection. What you say and what you call a certain thing has a big impact on a culture. It's like literally if I call ITC ABC and I start pushing it as ABC everywhere, and what will happen is that people who follow me only and have been to ITC, they will start thinking कोई ABC क्या था और ABC में बात कर रहा था कल. Problem उसमें क्या होगा, that all the people, Uzma, Saira, the founders, they'll be like हमने इतनी मेहनत की है इसको ITC को बनाने में, ये ABC क्यों बोल रहा है, ये ABC से हमें कुछ फ़ायदा भी नहीं होगा, उल्टा नुकसान हो रहा है, because he's calling something else. This is what like misappropriation actually is. You guys can search for its academic proper definition, but I'll try to break it down to you in a layman's words. Why it's problematic? You guys are new. ITC is relatively a new institution compared to NCA, Karachi University, or Punjab University. These have been there for maybe 100 years or more. If I take away whatever you worked on, name it something else, attribute it to somebody else, and you guys cannot do anything because I have more followers than ITC. And then what you will feel is कि यार इसके पास power है तो क्या कुछ भी बोलेगा? And no matter what you do, you will never be able to up my level of reach or my level of influence or power to push it forward. These kind of things eventually become problematic. And that's what cultural misappropriation does. It's not about just taking something, naming something else. I'm taking something which was yours, I'm putting it and labeling it as something else. I'm taking away because I have the power, you don't, and I can do it, so what? So that is usually the case with cultural misappropriation. Culture, unlike ITC, is more malleable. वो आप किसी भी तरीके से उसको shape कर सकते हैं. Think of it as clay. If any of you have taken sculpture या बचपन में मिट्टी के साथ खेला है आप लोगों ने, so you know you can shape it into anything. Play-Doh, plasticine, all of these things, I think बचपन में I hope you guys have played with. If not, garden में मिट्टी से we have made something. Similar is with culture. Culture changes, culture evolves. So when you take specific things and appropriate to somebody else, that becomes problematic because the people who have owned it and who know its importance and who value it, like ITC शायद आप लोगों के लिए as a student might not matter, but people who worked on it, people who run it, people who make sure all of you have a good time here, they'll be offended कि ये ABC क्यों बोल रहा है. So we'll take it like that. But now I want to take you to things which probably you guys have seen, and I've tried to make this slide as local or as locally relevant as possible. I'll move or start with kameez. This is something which I have actually fought like a troll with people, and I'm not proud of it. When I was younger, I used to be very vocal and I used to be very defensive. And people used to say कि कमीज़ जो है वो हमारी है, ज़ारा भी कमीज़ें बना रहा है, ये हमारी चीज़ें चोरी कर रहे हैं और क्यों कर रहे हैं और इनको नहीं करना चाहिए या इनको पाकिस्तान लिखना चाहिए. And I started looking at what the word kameez meant, where did it come from, when did we start wearing kameez, because I think अगर आप लोगों ने शुरू में fashion history या आप normal history भी पढ़ी हो, you look at people from Mohenjo-daro, Harappa civilization, they were wearing draped clothes, they were not stitched like this. Starting with the original kameez. Kameez itself is a Greek word that came to Arabic, and kamisa and then kameez, and then you use the word chemise. All of these are a family of words that have a single root, and they came to denote anything that you wear on top, like it's a top garment. And my question was कि ये जो मैंने अभी भी कमीज़ कुर्ता whatever you call it, that a circular hem, where did it come from? And if English people or the Western world is using it, why are suddenly people so militant about it कि मेरा है या मेरा नाम लो? So the reality is slightly complicated. Before British came, or before the Westerners came to South Asia to colonize us or to trade with us, our kurta or kameez used to look something like this. I think locally tailors के पास आपको ये कहते हैं कलीदार कमीज़ या panels वाली कमीज़, panels वाला kurta. There are multiple words for it. When you get into specificities, every word has a very specific meaning. Sadly in Pakistan हम किसी भी चीज़ को कुछ भी कहते हैं और रीजनल वेरिएशंस भी होते हैं. सिंधी में इसको चोलो कहते हैं या चोला. पंजाब में भी there are regional variations and so on, and Saraiki, Balochi, Pashto and so on. So this is an image of a gentleman in late 18th, early 19th century taken by British people when they were documenting us. They came here and started documenting the weird people, and you can see this is to them a person wearing a kurta. Look at what all of you are wearing. You are essentially wearing a version of a modern kurta which looks like something I am wearing, which has a yoke at the back, and it has a placket, it has cuffs, and it has a rounded hem. This older kurtas did not have it. They had a much bigger silhouette. They were slightly more roomy. I think some of you might be wearing something like this because thanks to brands like Generation, Khadi, Image, there are a lot of these kalidar things because it allows you to give more volume, and it also allows you to keep wearing this cloth because you can change these panels and make it bigger over time. And also you can notice yahan pe bhi there was like a panel, but suddenly we see kameez shalwar like this now. When did this become this? Reality is before 19th century the kurtas were all like this, or even more flared like this. Or I don't know if you guys saw beech mein Ali Sethi went to Coachella and was wearing something like a jama which had much more flare, and internet pe log keh rahe the usne frock pehna hai. Frock, by the way, again the word itself is not ours, it's an English word or a Western word. But this panel at the back, these cuffs, rounded hem, these are all from an undergarment of English costume or English attire. So back in 18th century, Western people used to wear undershirts, जैसे आजकल हम शमीज़ पहनते हैं या slip पहनते हैं या गंजी या बनियान, whatever you call it. The purpose was कि वहाँ ठंड बहुत ज़्यादा होती है, people used to wear undergarments and keep changing those, and the outer garments like a coat or a vest or an overcoat or a jacket used to be something that you would take it aside, keep it hanging and keep changing your inner garments. We all know that people in the West did not used to bathe as much as we do because the climate and the conditions and the society, sociology, all of that affected their daily lives. So this was something essentially like this, and they used to be long because it used to be tucked in, as you can see. Yes? Yes. 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 Yes, I'll come to that. But I wanted to take you there, but I'll thank you for that, and I'll mention it also how it's called Hyderabadi or Multani and all of it. So when they started having shirts like this, they used to tuck it in their trousers. But all of you people or any of you people who have ever tucked in a shirt, as a man I can tell you, if I tuck in this much, ये तो बहुत कम है. But if I tuck it a long one, यहाँ पे बहुत bulge हो जाएगा मेरे कपड़ों में. And also, if I don't have these slits, जब मैं इसको tuck in करूँगा, it will be hard for me to walk, right? So these slits came in because when you tuck in, a shirt which is stitched like this, यहाँ पे बहुत सारा bunch हो जाएगा. And also when you will sit, it will be very uncomfortable for you because it will stretch. And there was no stretch, by the way, in 18th and 19th century. It's a very 21st century concept. Slits came because you wanted to tuck in and you wanted freedom of movement. So this shirt became a night shirt because a lot of people in the West used to take off their outer clothes and sleep in the inner clothes. That's where pajamas are from. And they did not used to wear bottoms beneath them. They had trunks, but iske niche shalwar nahi hoti thi. This is a picture of a Pakistani photographer, Sajal. You can follow her. She's a very young, nice girl who has shot a lot of new campaigns. She's shot the recent Sana Safina's one. So she took a men's kurta and started wearing it as an undershirt or a night shirt. This, by the way, is Elvis Presley. He was wearing this night shirt, and these night shirts were quite in fashion till 70s. ये जो हम आजकल PJs पहनते हैं या coats पहनते हैं काफ़ी बाद में आए हैं. Night shirts were actually advertised like this. If you look at older shopping catalogs online, there are a lot of them on Pinterest. You will see them being advertised like this, and this is literally Pakistani kameez that you sell. We need to wear bottoms because culturally Islam and also our climate does not allow us to roam freely, and it's also considered immodest. So we have kept our own shalwar, but this kurta was wasteful for people because A, did not provide structure. When you put a yoke and you put insert sleeves, it gives you structure, unlike this type of a garment. And also we needed cuffs because we took it from the British. While wearing jackets, you need to show, and there were a lot of connotations जो आपने सुना होगा, blue collar worker, white collar worker. So a lot of times these collars were added. पहले we used to have like a rounded collar, which was like stitched or hemmed with like a basic stitch, and there was no standing, yeah, something like. But even this has like a slight thing. So अगर 19th century में अंग्रेज़ हमारे पास नहीं आते तो हमारी शलवार कमीज़ ऐसी नहीं होती. And I have this detailed explanation on my blog, on a post. I can share it later. But I wanted to show you because cultural appropriation is thrown around a lot now. हर कोई कुछ भी claim कर लेता है. Like anybody, like recently somebody was like, oh biryani हमारी है. And I was like, ठीक है, like anybody can have biryani. Like whoever cooks it well can have it. But this piece is from Umar Republic. Umar heads the design house, Republic Menswear. 18th century, 19th, early 20th century, this is 21st century. Point of showing you all of this is that a lot of times things are a bit complicated. It's not a very one-to-one thing. We take a lot from people we work with, we trade with, who ruled us. If we did not, if you can look at people from North Africa who were ruled by the French, or look at other countries who were colonized by Italians, they did not have costumes like us because they were not colonized by British. We took from British because they were here with us, and it shows in our clothes also. There was a question in the back, we call it Hyderabadi kameez. Regionally, there are a lot of names and there are a lot of nuances. Isme, I think we can't see it here, it's not clear because of the projection. We used to have like a side tie rather than a middle front placket. It's also a regional thing that was only across South Asia. South Asia mein we had this thing कि अंगरखे की तरह we used to tie it on the side. Either it was a closure with a toggle or a button. Button, by the way, again, not ours. We did not have buttons. The button just for whole thing that we stitch. Fastenings hoti thi, but our fastenings were not the shape and the kind that we used to have. What we call kaj, it's again a British gift to us. Similarly, the yoke at the back, those kurtas, the Hyderabadi ones, did not. There are variations to it in south of Punjab, there are variations to it in Balochistan. If you look at older images, and a lot of them were taken by British people, and there are surveys of all India, survey hota tha, gazettes hoti hain, try to look them up. They are available on archives.org. Archives.org is an open source website where you can access all kinds of publications which are not under copyright. So क्योंकि बहुत 200 साल पहले हुई थी, so all of these gazettes are publicly available to research, move beyond Pinterest, move beyond Google itself. Again, this is a kurta, a very modern interpretation what we wear. This was around 2006, spring summer men's collection. Point of showing all of you this is that we think a lot of times, and especially in India and Pakistan, we are very myopic to think that sab kuch hamara ingenious hai. When we throw around words like cultural appropriation, we need to be a bit mindful of what we are talking about, where it came from, whether we have evolved it or whether it's originally something which is historically our own. Sherwani, I think this is something a lot of people have fought over. I have fought over with people. Not very proud of, by the way, guys. I'm in my 30s now. I did very shameful thing in 20s. Thank God there was no screenshots and lynching people on their online activity. I'm not proud of it, but I own it. Sherwani, this Sherwani is from Smile Fareed on a model called Hussein Larry. This is from Dior Spring 2022, and somebody sent it to me saying, oh my God, doesn't this look like you guys, Indian Sherwani? That person is a British person who runs an account called McQueen Vault, a dear friend. And then again, I'm very curious. I started looking at more. This is McQueen from 2000, either 18 or 17. And this literally looks like our Sherwani. And it has Zardozi work also. If you guys have money, this by the way is on sale for like tens of thousands of dollars if you want to bet on it. This model also is Indian origin. And again, I'm lucky that I got to talk with the person who heads menswear at McQueen. I'm very resourceful. I'm very lucky that I get to talk to them online. And he actually told me, yes, we were looking at Indian and South Asian menswear and womenswear for our inspiration. This is from a book, I don't know if you guys have it in the library, called Costumes of Awadh. And I wanted to show you the actual picture because you can't find things like this on internet. Please guys, if you guys have money, if you guys have access to money, please buy books. You can never be done with internet research. A lot of times it is misleading and wrong. So I talked about Jama that Ali Sethi wore. This is before the Nawabs, the actual Mughal period. And then when Nawabs and British had come in, a lot of people started wearing chogas. Chogas is literally like a jacket or I don't know, overcoat. A lot of women's wear. No, kimono is much more complicated in terms of its construction. This is similar to the earlier silhouette that I showed you. It has a panel for sleeves and it is a bit more flared. Kimono का जो pattern होता है, it's slightly more complicated in terms of the components they are stitched and the number of panels it has.
It's like a loose overcoat.
It's a loose overcoat, thank you. I was struggling with the word. And this came to us from Central Asia because Mughals के साथ साथ जब बाकी Central Asian countries से हमारा trade हो रहा था, not all of the people can afford this much flair. I think all of the ladies who have ever bought a packet जोड़ा, they realize कि जो पैकेट पे लगा होता है उतना वैसा कभी भी नहीं बन सकता, right? Like that's mostly like 2.5 से 3 गज, and this requires more than 2.5-3 गज. And people who were peasants like myself, a corporate slave, or even people who are blue collar workers, they don't have money for this. Who will wash this? Who will starch this? So this was slightly more common or slightly more practical. And then came the Angarkha. Angarkha is something which is very indigenous to India and Pakistani region. This is something which was our own, and it works because if you notice, all of these garments never go out of size. You can actually tie it slightly looser, overlap थोड़ा कम हो जाएगा, sleeves छोटी हो गई तो आप ये panel remove करके दूसरा लगा दो, जोड़ लग सकता है. What shirt did, उसने हमें थोड़ा फंसा दिया है. Because if you get fatter, you can't add a panel into it. Like, where would you add it? You'll have to take it all apart and probably restitch it. Our garments had that. Angarkha came during the mid-British era, when British people were already here as our colonizers, not as a trade. And as you notice, हमारा flair कम होता जा रहा है, हमारी expressiveness कम होती जा रही है. This is slightly reductive because अंगरखा पूरे इंडिया पाकिस्तान में नहीं पहना जाता था. This is showing you how sherwani came to be. So there must be other garments being worn while angarkha was being worn. Then came chapkan. Very few people even know the word chapkan. Yeah, chapkan. And it was a very widely worn thing. If you notice, we have adapted a lot of things now. Placket ki tarah beech mein draw ho gaya. We have a panel here, but there's flair bhi bahut kam ho gaya. And then you can see the origins or at least remnants of a cuff. It's not like the one we are wearing now. Then came achkan. If you guys are lucky, there used to be an exhibition at Mohata Palace about textiles of the East. They had a few achkans there. अगर ये इतने translucent fabric में नहीं हो तो आप, a lot of people mistake it for being a sherwani, but its construction is slightly different. Lower part जो है chapkan का, you can still see there's slight more flair into it. In achkan it has been streamlined. Also ये जो seam थी ये चली गई, we just elongated it. And this is also notice the time, if you are seeing British people roaming around in long coats, you would want to be like them or at least ape their choices because you want to be close to them. पाकिस्तान में भी ऐसे होता है कि lot of times you follow your celebrity, whoever you follow, and you see कि ओ अगर उसने ऐसा पहना है तो शायद मैं exactly वैसा नहीं पहन सकती, but I'll get some semblance of it. माहिरा ने अगर लॉन्ग शर्ट पहनी है तो एटलीस्ट एक दफ़ा अगले वाले में शायद मैं माहिरा शर्ट पहन लूँ, और मे बी हानिया आमिर और whoever you guys follow, I'm not sure. Or Taylor Swift. Everybody loves Taylor Swift. Who loves Taylor Swift? Okay, great, thank you. I'm proud of you girls. So even if you can't wear what Taylor Swift wears, you might take one or two things, maybe her sneakers or the kind of jeans she wears or the way she wears her hair or the choice of makeup. So similarly, people who were ruling us, our rulers also were taking things. Sherwani came in 19th century guys. जो आज की शेरवानी है, this is not recent and this is not ours. We have evolved it. It's not indigenous to the land. If you want to lay claim to it, there's Bangladesh, there's India, there's Pakistan, some of Afghanistan, maybe even Sri Lanka or Iran, because the Sherwani, the word itself is not Indian, Hindi, Sanskrit or Urdu itself. It comes from present day Azerbaijan, and it comes from a place which was called Shiran, and यहाँ पे चोखा लिखा है, sorry, it's typo, it's called Choga, the one that we saw here, this. And still, if you guys happen to go to Baku or any of the Central Asian countries, I hope you guys get to travel, I sincerely pray. But you will see a lot of older people wearing overcoats like this. So yes, this is a basic timeline. Again, I was lazy to put it. It's literally a picture from a book. I hope you guys have it downstairs. If not, I will try to find you links. Go to Liberty Books, readings pe shayad padhi ho.
If we could go back to the previous slide. So basically what you're saying is that when we are moving to the chapkan and the ashkan and the sherwani, so we are trying to
Adapt.
not lose our identity but try to emulate.
To be honest, I think identity is a social construct which keeps on changing. Like I identify today as a marketing person. I don't want to be known as an influencer because what influencer is now, I don't fit that definition. I don't influence anyone at the moment. Maybe 10 years ago I was. I used to identify as somebody who was from interior Sindh. A lot of people used to call me and they're like, "Aap to Sindh se aaye hain." And I used to be like, "No, I'm standing there." And they're like, "Nahi, aap Sindh se aaye hain." And I'm like, "No, I'm in Sindh." Like, it's not like I've gone anywhere.
So basically what I mean
evolving.
trying to emulate the qualities of the colonizer, because now you're looking up to them. So for example, we had the very famous Bengali Babu, where he's wearing a jacket with the lungi or the
Yes,
dhoti
yes,
underneath
yes.
it, and then they were and the umbrella, and they were known as the Bengali
Babu,
So
yes.
in a way, they were kind of associating themselves
Yes, yes.
with the colonizers.
Colonizers, and it's not just our phenomena. If you look at Japan and China, they had a very bad war, and one had a very brutal occupation or an attack. Like Japan was attacked by China, and there are a lot of regions of Japan which have taken things from the colonizer because they are border areas. Another example for us would be, which again a lot of people fight over, is Afghani jacket. You must have seen एक black color की कोटी होती है जिसके ऊपर gold cord से embroidery हुई होती है with mirrors and all. इसको sadri कहते हैं normally. Sadri is a word which is used in Afghanistan, KPK, northern Balochistan. Pakistan came into being in 47. People with Pashto or Pakhtun heritage have been wearing a version of those for a longer period of time around those border areas. And a lot of times people are in my comment section and other people's comment section fighting with Afghans and other ethnicities. They're like, ये पाकिस्तानी है because ये कोयटा में बनती है, और ये पश्तो है और ये पेशावर से आती है. And then Afghans are like, hey guys, you just came in 47. Like, we've been selling them for much longer. This is another example. Are there any Baloch people here? You? Okay, great. You must have heard of this thing called pashk. It's a traditional clothing. अगर आप लोग ने online देखा, a lot of आजकल तो बहुत सारे pages हैं which are selling unstitched versions of these, because the embroidery essentially is called pashk, not the silhouette and the way it's constructed. And again, it's free size, by the way. If you buy it, a plus size person and a small size person can buy the same thing and stitch it according to their size. And it has smocking on the sides, so as you grow in and out of yourself, if you come to expect children, you can open up that smocking and it kind of opens up. There are gathers hairs also, so you can keep wearing it, open up the gathers, the sleeve becomes much bigger, armhole bada ho jata hai, so on and so forth. So this was again done by an American designer who picked a dress from Etsy, an antique dress, and made a new collection from it and did not credit it. And there was a person who was studying in Canada, saw it online. So these three are from the designer, these two are the original ones or the legit pieces. We need to protect such things. This is very original or on the nose. There's little change or development, even the embroidery placement, the silhouette even at times, they've just westernized it a bit. We need to stand up or at least talk about things or at least document it, because I think what you guys are doing right now, what you guys are studying is important. A person on the road, person who has never studied, maybe my family, friends who are not into textiles and fashion, if you don't call things for what they are, you essentially lose out in the longer run. It's me calling every brown person Indian, or me calling all the people black, just because they have a darker skin tone. So there's information, you just have to look for it. There's very little work done for Baloch costumes. If any of you take it as a project, I would really appreciate love to help and connect you with Baloch people, craftsmen. There are a lot of women who are practicing it in Sindh also, who have moved here as immigrants. Please, when you're researching, please move beyond the basic Chanels and Dolces and look for things which seem a bit off. This is from, I think, 97 or 98. This is a Christian Dior haute couture show. The model is Linda Evangelista, and this to me looked a lot like Rili. How many of you are Sindhis here? Great.
But we're sitting in Sindh, so...
No, like Sindhi speaking people.
Yes.
Great. So you must have seen Rilis, like all of us have them at home. It's like the basic throw, it's a kilt that is traditional to us. And This is done by a local brand called Lulusar, and this is by a small brand in menswear based in Zamzama called Deepak and Fahad. This is proper patchwork, this is a print, this is also patchwork. But the inspiration, like somebody sent it to me and they said, a Sindhi person, well-meaning Sindhi person, they said, oh, unhone hamari really chura liya hai. And it seems funny, and I'm like, and I had not seen the picture, I just got the message. So I was like, who stole the rili? Like it was drying on the chat. Kya ho raha tha? Matlab koi le gaya? And I don't know if you guys know, in Sindh we are very protective of our things. कि ऐसे कोई थोड़ी ले गया, पहनने के लिए दी थी या सुखाने के लिए रखी थी, ऐसे कैसे ले गया? And these take a lot of time to first stitch it and then put layers in it. But this was, by the way, inspired. When I googled it, I had not seen it. I am a big Dior fanatic from early 90s, not the current Dior, but the earlier one when Ferré was designing, Galliano was designing. So this is Galliano's time, and this, by the way, is from Portuguese kilt. It's not ours. And I had to look, because I was already knee deep into it. I was like, "Ob to mujhe Portuguese dekhni hai." And when I went to Portuguese kilt, they looked nothing like this. And then I went to South American kilts, and they looked a bit like it. But then I started looking at wherever Spain went, wherever Portuguese went, and it turned out कि जो geometric shapes की kilt है, again Pakistan and our area, because it was rich in minerals, in spices, in fabrics, in textiles, we had a lot of people who were coming in. Like Goa mein there was a Portuguese settlement. Portuguese actually traded with Sindh also. So wherever these people touched, we picked some things from it. How many of you know an embroidery called hurmicho or hurmich? So it's a Sindhi embroidery which is almost like a cross stitch, but it's slightly angular, that you go beneath the basic crosses and kind of intertwine it. I have a post, but on my blog I have not edited here. But the point was, a lot of things which look similar, quite blank, are not ours. Ours looked something like this. I don't know if you guys have seen something like this. This is an American designer, Ulla Johnson. This is 2021 or 2022. That's a Sindhi lady, and that's actually really at my own house. I wanted to show you because this, we call it applique work, because it's appliqued on a base fabric or a portion of fabric which is cut into different shapes. And they're so unique that if you move from Sindh to northern Punjab or KPK, you don't see them anywhere. They're only in the region of Sindh, Gujarat, Rajasthan, because we traded with a certain community and we kept it there because these people were not nomads. It's a craft which is practiced by women for their home. These are home textiles, so they were not traded as such. So you don't see these things going anywhere to North Africa, to Europe, to East Asia. They've kept wherever these people were. And because these people were not nomads, this craft has stayed in that, like a particular indigenous area. Angarkha I earlier talked about. This is, I suppose, Etro, and how many of you can identify this person? If you guys identify, I'll give you a gift. Let's incentivize it. A prize of sorts. A very famous person. There are 2 Bollywood movies on him. See, it's written. It took you so long. Guys, please pay attention. So, Awadh was a princely state. It shows me how sleepy all of you are, but I don't.
I think when they are visuals, people are not looking at it.
Yeah. So, Nawab of Awadh was a princely state. Do you guys know what princely states are? How many of you know what a princely state is? Raise your hand. Okay, I'll break it down to you guys. Before democracy came, before Pakistan and India were Pakistan and India, there used to be small, let's call them city states or princely states. They're called princely states because princes used to handle all of it. उनके जो coins होते थे वो उनके नाम पे like mint होते थे. Princely state का मकसद, यहाँ एक example आपके लिए होगा, खैरपुर मीर्स. Talpurs used to rule over it. that's the nearest example I can give you. How many of you watched Padmavat? See, everybody has watched a Bollywood movie. So the place where Alauddin was ruling was Delhi. Again, it was like a state. He used to call himself कि मैं पूरे इंडिया का ruler हूँ, but India overall at that time was including Pakistan and towards Bangladesh also. So he was technically not really whole of India. There were a lot of small groups. हर कोई अपने अपने एरिया का state था. It was literally like कोई DHA का prince है, कोई PCHS का prince है, something like that. From so Nawab of Awadh. Awadh was a princely state in North India. Awadh is near where present day Lucknow is. So all of the Urdu things, all of the things we generate or associate with Urdu culture or Muhajir culture comes from North Indian states. Awadh was one of those areas. Awadh has given a lot to textiles, food, crafts, wooden jewelry, a lot of these things. So Nawab Awadh के लिए बहुत famous था that he used to wear an angarkha and he was slightly chubby. So his nipple used to show because जो panel होता है वो इतना बड़ा नहीं होता है. I don't know if you guys have ever seen an angarkha पुराने ज़माने का. It used to have a panel नीचे and then there was an overlay that you can tie either with a closure or with a tie here. When Etro took these, by the way, Etro takes a lot from South Asian culture. They have paisleys जो हम अक्सर Etro के साथ associate करते हैं. I put this next to each other because this is essentially very similar. But if you notice, Angarkha did not have this much flair. They have put in a bit more flair, perhaps because it's a female silhouette. Back in the day, we did not have anything. Men, women all used to wear flair. The concept that men are not supposed to wear flair, they used to have straight, very streamlined silhouettes. Again, a Victorian notion. So, question आता है कि क्या मैं culture appropriation कर रही हूँ या नहीं कर रहा हूँ. Even though this is a diagram, you guys will have access to this PPT. I'll give it to the management here. You guys can go through it. Basic idea, I will not read through all of the flow chart. Basic idea होता है intent का, आपकी और जिससे आप चुरा रहे हैं या उठा रहे हैं उसकी power dynamics का. And then also how you are using it. अगर मैं कल किसी black person के लिए बात करना शुरू हो जाऊँ या Indian person के लिए बात करना शुरू हो जाऊँ, I might not be the best person because I am more privileged and I cannot speak on behalf of people. I think all of you younger people, all of you are at least 10 years younger than me, you guys have a better sense of morality than I do. Morality is evolving. अगर आपकी इंटेंट ना भी हो, कभी कभी आप गलती से चोरी कर लेते हैं. आप समझते हैं कि मैंने खुद बनाया है, लेकिन आपके दिमाग में वो चीज़ चल रही होती है और वो छापा बन जाता है.
So just to give you an example, so obviously it's वही वाली बात है कि you take over, you overpower. So I met somebody yesterday and they asked my younger sister, she's just coming from Canada with the kids, and so her husband works at home, and so my cousin asked her, so how do you manage it? And before she could answer it, I was like, they manage it like this, and and she's a psychotherapist, my sister. She looks at me and she said, did you just see how Appa hijacked my agenda? And she gave my entire answer and she did not let me fill in. And and she just answered on my behalf and I said, oops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So अगर आपकी इंटेंट ना भी हो, क्वेश्चन करें कि जिस तरीके से मैं इसको यूज़ कर रही हूँ या कर रहा हूँ, क्या ये किसी और के राइट्स पे तो इन्फ्रिंज नहीं कर रहा. दूसरा ये कि मैं जिस तरीके से इस चीज़ को यूज़ कर रहा हूँ, क्या वो डिसरिस्पेक्टफुल तो नहीं है. A lot of times people ask me कि why can't I wear Ajrak themed chappals or why can't I wear Ajrak themed shorts or swimming costume, and for a person like me to explain it to them, the concept for me is I tell them कि a very basic example, always lead with examples. In Sindh and south of Punjab, people wrap Quran Pak in Ajrak. So think of it as, would you be comfortable doing that? And then I gave him another example that there are communities who put it over the deceased when they are being carried to their grave. So if you go to Sindh, which is a rural part of Sindh, you will see a lot of graves have Ajraks on top of it. it's a cultural practice, and for something to be considered so sacred and valued, to be considered something to be so trivial is at times a bit कि यार क्यों? But you can't answer something on a Sindhi person's behalf. You have to take their take on it. Right now we are going through war in the Middle East, and I always tell people to be careful for speaking on behalf of Palestinians also. Take their take, share their stories if they have posted, because we as Pakistanis are viewing it from our own lens. At times it's good for them, at times we are harming their interest. Similarly, it's for Kashmir, similarly it's for Balochistan, similarly it's for KPK, any other group of people who you feel are in minority in terms of power dynamics, let them speak for themselves. अब एक बहुत अच्छा question और था जब मैं pictures ढूंढ रहा था to put in these was this opening slide. Whenever I was looking for culture appropriation, I don't know if you've ever seen, Indians are the last people to cry cultural appropriation. So Kim Kardashian did this shoot for Vogue India about 6-8 years ago, and if I'm not mistaken, that's Sabyasachi. These cornrows जो इन लोगों ने अपने बालों में किए हुए हैं, these are appropriated from African people, and I think this one is from Native Americans if I'm not mistaken. This was a Victoria's Secret show, and this picture I literally took off from internet. But Indians never say कि आपने साड़ी क्यों पहनी है या साड़ी से चुराया है. Indians had a big exhibition about a year ago at Nita Ambani Cultural Center, NMACC, where they exhibited all the clothes Western fashion designers have inspired from India, but they never cried cultural appropriation. So it's very important when you cry cultural appropriation, you know what you're talking about. Now comes why India doesn't do it. India in the past 30 to 40 years has changed in terms of its cultural makeup. They take pride अगर कोई और साड़ी पहनता है तो. They encourage it. And similarly with Japan, if you go to Japan, they don't mind if you wear a kimono. They have cultural places and events where they actually tell people कि आएं. Yeah.
जैसे अगर कोई पाकिस्तान से कुछ इंस्पायर्ड लेता भी है, फॉरेनर जैसे कुछ भी इंस्पायर उनसे हमारे कल्चर से लेते भी हैं, they don't give due credit to it.
Yeah.
Whereas अगर कुछ इंडियन कल्चर से ले रहे इंस्पिरेशन, so they give credit to it.
So
उनका नाम आ रहा है और वो लोग जैसे एक इंडियन कल्चर या इंडिया का नाम रोशन हो रहा होता है. Whereas पाकिस्तान में ये नहीं होता. जबकि अगर आप ले भी रहे होते हैं तो अगर कोई बोलता भी है कि पाकिस्तानी है, तो they don't give credit to it.
So that the answer is a bit complicated. As I mentioned, Pakistan is relatively a new country. We came in 47 and we
75 years.
Yeah, but I'm just going there. So we share a lot of things with India. For example, basmati rice, Alfonso or Chausa mango. There was recently a dispute in world trade where India and Pakistan both were trying to sell basmati rice, and the question was who will claim basmati rice as their own. And there was also a question of Chausa, the mango, that who will claim कि ये मेरा है, like who will say कि Indian है Pakistani है, or where did it originate from. Half of the problem here, I agree with you, is our own political, that we don't have good spokespeople to fight for the cause, but also a lot of times people are also misinformed. They falsely claim a lot of things, which a lot of things actually originated on the Indian side of the border, but we falsely claim as our own. I said biryani. I saw some people fighting over कि Indian biryani को कही है पाकिस्तान का national food है biryani. By the way, there's no such thing as a national food. Like on a national level, there's no thing which is notarized by government of Pakistan as being a national food. But that because thing is it's shared, and also I'm not sure if you know, kameez is also worn by Afghanis and they've worn it side by side. So if tomorrow Afghans also say कि मैं भी पहन रहा हूँ, so would you call it a South Asian kameez, Indo-Pak kameez, or I don't know.
But Indian do proudly carry it like
Forward, yeah.
I think there's also political will over there to
To
promote
own
the
it.
culture.
We want to be more Arabic at times. We want to be Persian at times. There's a thing that we want to be closer to Turkey now. Everybody's Ertugrul and Osman and all of it. You must have seen a lot of young kids are now named Osman in the past 7-8 years, thanks to the serials and a lot of soft imagery by Turkey. So unless as a country or as a cultural practice, all of you don't put out more of content, like even right now if I write kameez, how many times do I see Pakistani content creators or designers write it as Pakistani kameez? How many times do I see entries online as Hyderabadi kameez? There's just not enough up there for people to say कि देखो 10 जगहों पे reference हुआ हुआ है. Saira and I were talking in terms of research. I hope some of you end up going to academic research and go towards writing. When you write research paper, it's not because आप doctor बन जाते हैं. You establish some facts. You establish some matter of fact things which हम समझते हैं कि normal है, but they need to be notarized. They need to be given with proper credits and references, because unless you don't prove what you're saying, like all the pictures I've shown here, I can give you references of articles, and that's why I've shown you, like from this kameez to all of that. And then last, I'll just wrap it up. Sorry guys, I've kept you here for a very long session. It's arduous, I understand. So how many of you watched the movie called Troy? I think you must have. Suna to hoga. So this movie came in 2006. I think most of you are younger, so I don't blame you. It had Orlando Bloom, it had Brad Pitt. It talks about the Trojan War, where Helen and Paris fought. And by the way, Paris is named after this person, Paris. And I saw this necklace. And when you Google, can you see the word niche? Can you guys read the descriptions? So if you Google blue multan enamel necklace or amulet by the way is a word for taweez or something which has in it, you see such images. And I have a very dear friend who is a collector and an influencer called Best Dressed Afghan, based in New York. Safia is her name. She sent me this and they're like, you have been to Multan, mujhe dila do. And I was like, yeah, but these are not Multan. I've been to Multan a lot. And I can say these are not Multan because I've been to Multan, I've bought a lot of Multani things. And wherever you just...
So I've gotten these made from there. So there
Yeah.
I know the
people who do this. But when you actually research in books, it turns out these are from Hazara people. And online, a lot of things are misappropriated. They're written as Indian because it's convenient to write India, sare log brown, ek hi Bollywood, naach gana, it just works for everyone. Like everybody loves Alia Bhatt, Taylor Swift. It's easier to block people into boxes. Aap abhi bhi, by the way, you guys can buy it. They are available at a lot of places online. They sell them as Multani, enamelware, enameled things. But these, when I asked the costume designer, again I was privileged to get in touch with her over email. She told me she got it from North Africa and they were from Afghanistan. And then Afghanistan mein Hazara people actually wear it. And a good example is they always come in threes. Some have these dingly dangly bits, some are square like this. Whenever you are researching, whenever you are thinking of calling something plagiarism or something like cultural appropriation, double check, look at the books. I saw there's a small library there. हमें लगता है कि इन books में नहीं होगा. There are certain small sections. There are a lot of times words. हर chapter के end में या book के end में references होते हैं. Google those books also whenever you are researching. A lot of things are available online, but a lot of things are only available in books. If you guys have friends in bigger universities, ask them if they can get you in their libraries. There are a lot of public places where you can go. I have never studied in a fashion school, yet I have been to IVS की library, yet I have been to KU library. थोड़ा मुश्किल होता है, but I have been there and I have nothing to do with it. मुझे कोई पैसे नहीं मिलते इस चीज़ के. You guys are actually going to do something which will make your name shine and put up in a brand's like mantle, do proper research, look at things, look at again and again. If you feel powerless कि आपको credit नहीं मिल रहा, I would say after 12 years, do better and do more. Consistency and persistence wins.
So the problem is that we're always complaining, but we're not doing anything about it. How many of you do plan to say कि ठीक है हम लोग अपना जब 4th year में आके dissertation करेंगे, we're going to pick up something which is indigenous, which is local, something which is being misappropriated or misrepresented.
And work on it.
And work on it. और आपका जो that 1 year of dissertation writing is sufficient for you to at least reach some kind of, even if not the
end goal, yeah.
आप उसको एक point पे लाके छोड़ देते हैं, then future generations can come and take it forward because your books will then be a part of the library.
And if not even you do, like as she said, you don't need to prove things to be done at it. At times you just need to explore. You just need to do an exploratory research or a preliminary search for it. There are a lot of things like case, for example. Case, by the way, case weaving has died in all of Sindh. They are only doing it on machines in some parts of Punjab. You can take case, for example. A lot of ajrak, जो अब हर जगह आपको ज़ैनब से लेके क्लिफ्टन, दो तलवा हर जगह पे पड़ा होता है, they are not even using proper dyes. A lot of times they are machine printed. A lot of people don't even know what indigo, madder, all of these things are. You guys can pick it up. There are a lot of people who are selling these things, who are artisans who are willing to collaborate.
So we take them to Bhiksha.
Great.
And they do stay overnight. There's a group over here who has been with us to Bhiksha. We stayed overnight. They've worked in the workshops with them. And so they have a bit of an understanding of that. Not everybody does some of that.
Pick what you are passionate about. If you are passionate about doing French fashion, then वो उतनी मेहनत आपको करनी पड़ेगी. I'm not saying pick which something is local. Right now there's a big market for modest wear, for abayas. There's nobody doing abayas. Research what other cultures do in terms of covering themselves. Pick something up. There's just ideas on top of my head. Footwear, accessories are big in Pakistan. Jewelry, I can just go on and on. Pick what you're passionate about and go at it. I work a proper 9-to-5 job where I talk about finance and financial products in digital mediums. None of this is my bread and butter. None of this is what I've studied, and I don't plan to actually study it academically. I tend to dabble in it by buying books, talking to individuals like Saira and others. Be open, try a bit harder. Reach out to designers. A lot of times आपको लगता है वो आपके मैसेज का जवाब नहीं देते. कोई फ्रेंड ढूंढ लें, किसी से कनेक्शन ढूंढ लें कि डू यू नो समबडी देयर. आई गॉट इन टच विद नूरजहां बिलग्रामी through a person who worked at her store. I have no connections. I am as common person as you guys are, but you can do it. You guys can reach out to me. Saira knows 200 million people.
Here's the problem. मैं जब अपने students को भेजती हूँ, when they say we want to go and meet fana all my writers for TKC, if you have interns for TKC, the problem is that when we send them, and this is for everybody, this generation, I think, they'll go up and they'll just loosely create a question and they'll say कि बस ये बोलते चले जाएंगे, हम उसमें से अपने मतलब का निकाल देंगे. They don't research and then go with focus questions, and then that becomes a turn off and a put off for the designers and the artists कि भाई ये आते हैं और एक general सा statement pass कर जाते हैं कि जी आप हमें बताएं कि इसके बारे में आपका क्या ख्याल है. This is, you know,
It won't work.
just to
ख्याल कोई नहीं बताएगा.
आपने you have to say this is my research and this is where I'm stuck. These are my questions. Can you respond to them? That's where you get the true information.
I'll just share very closing statement, then I'll take questions. I'll share an anecdote about 4 years, no, just before COVID. How many of you know who Benazir Bhutto is? I hope so. नहीं, मुझे लग रहा था सब सो रहे हैं, so I'll just try. So, a lot of times people joke, you know, तुम लोग सिंधी हो, तुम लोग तो पीपी को ही वोट दोगे. So it's like, okay, we don't, by the way. We are very diverse people. And I saw her wedding photos. She got married the year I was born in. So I never saw the real thing. Like अब आप अनुष्का की wedding देख लेते हैं, परिणीति की wedding देख लेते हैं. Benazir's wedding was probably a bigger thing back in those days, in late 80s. I was not born then, and my parents are the last person to keep old cuttings or all of it. And they were not a big fan of BB herself. So I researched a bit, बहुत confirmation मिली. There's a designer called Faiza Sami. Who knows who Faiza Sami is? And she does not have a retail store. I don't belong to the social class that she belongs to. So I started asking people कि यार इनसे बात करनी है, पूछना है कि अगर आपके पास कोई पुरानी तस्वीरें, कोई खाके और whatever kind of anecdote you want to share, I want to write a post. By the way, I've never gotten paid for any of this. I was just curious. I was having a fun day. Finance can be very, very draining, guys. So don't judge me. And somehow they connected me to Faiza Apa, that we call her. By the way, Faiza Sami has children who are older than me. So I was like, should I call her Miss Faiza, Madam, Apa? What should I call her? And they just gave me a number, nothing. So I messaged her, hello, Miss Faiza Sami, this is Aamir. I got your number from this person. I want to talk to you regarding Benazir Bhutto's wedding outfits. It took 2 weeks, no reply. I was like, kaun unknown number ko reply karta hai? But I was also persistent. I started finding who her friends were, and then I started asking them, is it her number? Can you put me in touch with her? She lives on this side of the bridge. I live on DHA. I got in touch with her, and she was literally having lunch, and she wanted like, जी अस्सलाम वालेकुम, बताएं क्या बात करनी थी आपको. If I was कि ना आपके क्या हाल हैं, तो मेरे हाल ख़राब कर देने थे उन्होंने. She was very persistent कि आपने इतने लोगों से मतलब बात की है कि मुझसे आपके बात करनी है. 2 weeks गुजर गए. I was just finding her friend. Oh, her daughter. Oh, her granddaughter. By the way, her granddaughter is on Instagram called Habiba Rahman. So I got in touch with her also कि मुझे मिलवाओ, बात करवाओ. And she was just getting angsty कि इतने लोगों से क्यों calling करवा रहे हैं, message करवा रहे हैं. When we got on call, she was having lunch. I gave her time and started very pointed questions. Who chose the fabrics? What was the silhouette? Who selected the silhouette? What was the calm like? Where was it done? Who talked? Who did not talk? Were the in-laws involved? How many days does it take you to make it? She was very pointed in her answers. I told her I'm recording the call, and I was also taking notes while on the call. And it was my lunch break at AdCom. Zunita, who works in the marketing upstairs, she's my colleague. She was there at that time. And this is my lunch break, and I'm just like noting things down. A lot of times she was naming things like Kala Battu. Who knows what Kala Battu is? See, a lot of people your age might not. I didn't. And then she started talking about different kinds of zari. And I was like, oh, acha. And Atlas. And I was like, Atlas silk. And I was like writing. And all of these, I was just writing this down. I did not know anything. And I thanked her for her time. And because I had gotten her address, and I sent her a bouquet around 30 minutes later, and I timed it like a pizza delivery. Because I was like, she has given me time after 2.5, 3 weeks. I posted that around 2 days, 3 days later. Between that, I talked to Umar Saeed, I talked to Rizwan, I talked to Rizwan Beg, Umar Saeed, because I wanted to know what these terms meant. And they were also not available कि hello Aamir बताते हैं तुम्हें. I don't belong to that class. I'm not their customer, not their friend. They're much older to me, at a better power position. But if you're passionate about something, get after them. Be respectful. Don't be like कि और सुनाओ या और नई ताज़ी. Guys, please don't. Nobody, only nahi tazi sabzi. There's no other thing. Like, come with pointed questions. If you want to come to me, like Saira messaged me, hello, how are you doing? We're doing this, would you be interested? If she was like, aur bataye aap kya kar rahe hain? Do you think I would have responded to her? No. Like, we literally started on an Instagram conversation where she introduced herself, I said hello, and she told me this is the agenda of the conversation we are having. Then obviously we exchanged pleasantries, and then we got more civil. But if you're reaching out to somebody and be like, अच्छा मैं आपसे बात करना चाहती थी आपके काम के बारे में. तो काम तो मतलब I do 3 other types of काम. I also do freelance and do marketing strategy for people. What काम are you talking about? What hour are you reaching people? I knew this is an older lady. I had to reach her in daytime. Don't bother people at 1 a.m. It just reflects poorly on you. When you're working for them, try to ask them other questions. कि when did you start? Where did this khaka come from? या आप लोग खुद बनाते हैं, कैसे रखते हैं?
And then also, like you did say, I asked them कि silhouette कहाँ से आया, because you're curious about the silhouette. it.
Yeah.
You had done your research on this story, not just randomly you threw that question.
I had pictures of Benazir's outfits from 3-4 angles. कुछ के ऊपर watermark भी लगा हुआ था. I don't know, Shutterstock ka, because I was wanted to know. And then many years later I found out Rizwan Beg's outfit that he did for Diana, which is now in Tokyo in a museum, and he was very frank कि ये कपड़ा था, ये ऐसे बनाया था, and he literally took a picture from his phone. Be very curious. If you guys don't want to be curious, just do capitalist work which will give you money, and that's just it. Nothing ever will like tease you or passionately ignite your like inner self to research and talk. Reach out to people. Sarah is a great person who has been in multiple institutes. She can connect you to I don't know how many people. She herself has done research. Ask her. A lot of times I think all of you get shy कि मना कर देंगी, जवाब नहीं देंगी, हमेशा busy होती हैं. Please do, and I'll end this and I'll ask all of you to ask me questions if you guys have any. And be very frank.
So I have a question. Actually, when we start,
Do you have a mic? Do you need a mic?
I just want to be
It's going to be documented.
actually before you coming here, the entire university students are your followers already.
No, I'm humbled.
That's because of Ma'am Sarah, because we have been.
Thanks.
Because whenever we start our course, she always asks us to, have you seen Aamir? Have you seen what they're doing? You see, they're mentioning a lot of, you can ask the students, they are already following you. So it's,
No, I'm humbled.
and we're,
I'm humbled.
We're very happy to have you here. And
Thank you.
it's a blessing that whatever you spoke right now was very relevant.
Thank you.
I think the students must have learned a lot.
No, thank you.
Because,
Thank you.
Yeah, and then yeah. So after you're done, you can talk to you.
Okay, so that was about it. And when you spoke about Faiza Sami, I just wanted to mention that I bumped into her sister, who is the owner of ESAC.
Yeah.
And the other sister is Farida Qureshi. So it was a wedding actually, and they came to me because I was wearing something unique. So they came to me because of that. So
Because they're very curious.
Yes.
Yeah,
Why
yeah.
did
And
all
she
these
asked me,
designers
where
are
did you
very
get this
curious?
from?
They'll stop you even if they don't know who Faiza Sami is huge, Farida Qureshi is huge. They're all
Yeah.
huge. But if they like something about you, they'll come and they'll ask you a question.
And that was the reason she came, and she said, where did you get this fabric from? So that was how I met her.
Hi.
Hello.
I just wanted to ask, how is the discussion of cultural appropriation having an impact on fashion industry's future?
So I take it as a social issue. Like think of it as Image tomorrow takes up something which Palestinians are doing, or maybe an American designer who's taking Palestinians are doing, or if a Punjabi designer takes something which Balochi are doing. So these are very complex social and political issues. Cultural appropriation directly does not affect your sales. But tomorrow if customers or people at large start boycott of your wares or of your designs based on the political or cultural or social ideologies, then it will affect fashion. अगर आपको लगता है कि आपकी ऑडियंस, आपके कस्टमर्स सोशल इश्यूज से अफेक्ट नहीं होते तो कल्चरल अप्रोप्रिएशन अफेक्ट नहीं करेगी फैशन को. एक बहुत ही ऑफ टॉपिक एंड वेरी ऑफ कलर एग्जांपल फॉर दिस वुड बी somebody like Maria B. So recently Maria B, who is a very commercial designer, she started taking political stands on social stands on things which have started impacting people that she talks about based on their business. Similarly, 3 years ago, a model came out and said कि मुझे 1.5-2 साल से पैसे नहीं मिले एक लाहौर के ब्रांड से, and then people stopped buying from their brand as a retaliation. There was a very talented illustrator from IVS in 2013 or 14. His painting was used by J. on their perfume packaging. And he told them, this is my painting which went into a catalog and got sold abroad. You can't commercialize it and put it on your perfume packaging. And J. perfumes are sold in hundreds and thousands. They're very commercially successful. But the thing is, all these appropriation, plagiarism and all of these things only matter when the customer, when the audience take a moral, social or political issue with it. A lot of countries don't. Like, I'm not sure if you guys are aware, a lot of American brands have pulled out of Russia, but Burger King is still in Russia operating. And there's a lot of pressure on them कि आपको भी वहाँ से निकल जाना चाहिए, Coke आ गया, McDonald's आ गया. So cultural appropriation design practice को शायद directly impact नहीं करता. It impacts the cultural and the social fabric where you're operating the business. Some countries, some societies are more prone to react more aggressively. Others just don't care. Indian market, for example, they are open to iconography of Ganesha and other Indian gods being printed by Vivienne Westwood or Dolce or Manish Arora, because in their culture that's acceptable. But think of it in 90s, you guys are very young, but Chanel made a collection where they put up Islamic calligraphy on couture dresses जो bodice के ऊपर थे. Essentially वो words actually Islamic नहीं थे, they were looking Arabic, like they were emulating Arabic calligraphy. But Iran's Ayatollah, who happens to be the Grand Ayatollah and a spiritual leader for Shia Muslims, he issued a fatwa that they should be killed and whatnot. And Chanel had to apologize, pull back all the pictures. Even now you find very few pictures up online. It was considered blasphemous. All these things are social things. Other countries did not care. Bangladesh probably did not care. Iran and Indonesia and Pakistan at that time reacted most vehemently or most harshly, because they were like, you can't even pick something which is emulating the look of Islamic scripture, even if it's not. There's a Tunisian designer who has died now, Alaya. If you guys research, he's based in France, he's now passed away. He also picked up Islamic scripture, but his Islamic scripture was Kufic. Kufic is a bit more angular and square-like, and वो print बहुत छोटा था, तो वो इतना लोगों को नज़र नहीं आया. He did body suits, and Yasmin and Naomi both wore it on the runway. वो शायद उतना लोगों को नज़र नहीं आया, पढ़ा नहीं तो उस पर reaction नहीं आया. But again, coming to your question, my first post was about Sana Safina's picking up something from Zara, and this was 2011. At that time, nobody cared. I messaged all the publications, let me write it, let me want to talk about it. Diet Prada did not exist in 2011. All of these things are relatively new. I think they started in 2015 or something. Dawn did not want to publish, Tribune did not want to publish. But by 12, 13, I was privileged because I was one of the few. My posts were being covered by Tribune, Dawn. A lot of these people who reached out to me, people like Uzma who were heading houses, they were like, how can you do this? Do you know what you're talking about? Sometimes I was right and sometimes I was completely wrong. But I educated myself and moved forward. Over time, I'm realizing for the past 3-4 years, probably people don't care as much. It's up to you guys, ताकि आपके काम की कल इज्जत हो, आपको अपने काम की इज्जत करवानी है. If you guys want कि कल आपको कोई कॉपी करे and आपको उसका due right और उसकी due compensation or apology मिले, you have to start from your own self, that you don't do it to somebody else, and be mindful around people कि तुम भी ऐसा ना करो because मैं बैठी हुई हूँ. It's literally like in society, if you see a person steal, not only you don't steal, you have to stop that person from stealing. कि मैं देख रही हूँ, you should not be doing this. So yeah, that's a complicated answer, I suppose. Yes. Walaikum Assalam.
So, with the war going in Palestine, so there's this headscarf that they use.
Yeah, kafiya, yeah.
Okay, so, if you see on social media, I've seen many of people like Pakistan say or like...
No.
This is a word of use over
Mansplaining, or even in our office, we are almost like 60-40 ratio of women, are 60%, 40% men. So we have a committee for women just for their kitchen, bathroom, common room type of a thing. That committee represents and takes decisions on their behalf. Men don't get a say कि मैं कहूँ कि यार ये सायरा मेरी दोस्त है, इसने मुझे बोला था इनको पाउडर वाली चाय नहीं चाहिए. and she'll be like, "Tum kaun ho? To let me like say it, na?" So giving representation to these people, letting them speak. A lot of people are represented online. Talk to them. How do you feel about it? A lot of times now, when I want to put up a story, I ask the people, "Ke aap ho, aap batao." Like I'm an urban Sindhi, so I ask my parents who grew up in rural Sindh, "Ke what do you think? Does it offend you? Do you think it's okay?" A lot of times they don't care also, and that's fine as well. In this age, a lot of times we spend a lot of time raging over something. इसने ये कैसे कह दिया? And मैं इसको सबक सिखाऊंगी, and I'll leave a comment under this, and I'll write कि मैं आपको unfollow कर रही हूँ. Trust me, it's not airport. You don't have to announce कि departures खुल गए, arrivals आ गए. Yeah, like you don't. If you feel you're being offended by something, leave it. If you don't like something, for example, I don't like Maria B's designs or Asim Jofa's design, I would not go to the store. Simple. If you don't like something, unless you're asked for an opinion, don't actively, aggressively put out things.
So basically, it's Shahir, because Shahir and I, we were having a discussion in class. So he said that union kar rahe hain, to ye kisme aata hai? Main kha, look, most of them are also doing it as a sign of solidarity.
Yes, that could be it also.
That becomes positive, because you know it's you representing their cause, and that's the only way you could. Sometimes you cannot be a part of it directly, so you do it. So his thing was, then why are they not? So of that sales, why they're not giving a part of it to Palestine? I said
because that's made in China. Very frankly, it's not even made in Palestine. Palestine में handmade, handwoven कफिये बनना बंद हो गए. I don't know if you ever, how many of you have recently gone to Umrah या parents जिसके Umrah या Hajj पे गए हो? So if you look at their Jai Namaz, their tasbih, all is made in China now. Even the Abi Zamzam plastic bottle is made in China. So nothing is going to Saudi Arabia with every purchase of like all of that thing. They're earning on a larger scale and other things, but artisanal cheezein jaise, why they're not giving $1 from the sale, they probably brought it from Sadar, and that guy must be a Pathan or like Punjabi, and he's going to take it home and put it in his bank account. He doesn't even know one Palestinian person. So wo kisko dega? It's better ke when you guys tomorrow start making a collection, if you guys are using a Sindhi embroidery, Punjabi embroidery, find these clusters of artisans, उनको employ कर लें, rather than उनको खैरात देने से उनको काम दें, उनसे कुछ काम करा लें. A lot of times it's not fine, but work with them, हो जाता है काम, and just be open, train them, work with them. They are probably in need of work. They're like Pakistan. We don't need aid, we need trade. So look for trade and work. Teach them how to fish. And also, all of you guys I know are from different departments. You guys are a very small bunch. Network with each other, make friends with each other. This will help you tomorrow to find jobs, work well. If you guys don't do this, you guys will suffer a lot after you're done with your degrees. Become friends with each other.
And network. I keep telling them, you know,
meet people, be open. And by the way, online follow karna is not meeting. Even if that is, try to meet those people also. Network beyond social media. Thank you, all of you. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure. And if you guys have any questions, you guys can reach out to either Saira or directly to myself on my Instagram. Anything that you feel I could help you with, I'll be more than glad to do so. But please, please be interested in things rather than work on being interesting or looking interesting. Follow your passions, and that's it. Thank you so much.